Hi, this is Heidi from Garden Crossings, and I am up at the Northern Michigan Garden, and we had planted a bunch of perennials in one of our flower beds, and now today we're going to go through and put all the drip line in and wood chip it. So actually Rod's going to be showing us how he did this. Since he does it, he knows how to explain it better. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this around, and we're going to have Rod explain to us what he's been doing here in this garden.
Hi, this is Rod from Garden Crossings, and today we're installing drip tubing in our Northern Michigan garden. When I had the underground sprinkling company install our underground sprinkling up here, I had them include some blank solenoid valves. So Heidi will just kind of show you right here where there's nothing attached to it right now. It's just a normal solenoid valve. So if you got some blank solenoid valves or have some installed solenoid valves in your landscape, what you can do is attach the strip tubing. This is a 1/2 inch drip tubing, and you can see it's got every 12 inches roughly, it's got little emitters that what we did is I'll eventually hook it to the solenoid, but I've laid it all out, and as Heidi kind of goes around and shows you a few things, you can see I've laid it out and put these little, I don't know if you call them U-clips or whatever, but every so often to keep that drip tube in the ground. And we just kind of weaved it all the way through this bed, and what we're trying to do is get this all weaved through. So it says to install it about every 12 inches apart. I've gone 18 to 24 inches at some point, but I tried to get next to most of my plants. So eventually, when it's all hooked back up, we'll be able to run it off the timer, and we'll run it for maybe an hour a day, depending on the season. But what we'll do is basically install the bark right over top of this. And that way, what we have found out is we got hydrangea bobo in here and some other hydrangeas, and it seems like when we throw water on top of those flowers after a while, the flowers will go brown quicker. So what we've done is installed this drip tubing in hopes that we can water from the bottom, eliminate some of the disease that some of the plants might get in their foliage when they stay wet, and also keep those hydrangea flowers looking good all summer long. So just kind of a quick overview of what we tried to do here to eliminate some of maybe some disease issues on the leaves and to prolong the flower life. All right, as you can see, what I've done is I've ran out of the tubing, the drip line tubing, and all it is a connection. There's no clamps, no nothing, you just push them together. So what I've done is I opened a new drip tubing, and all I'm going to do is make sure my emitters are in the same spot on each one, so they go the same direction. What's that?
Point out the emitters.
Oh yeah, here's the emitters here, and then this one's a little bit different, but you can see the hole in the tubing right there. So all we're going to do is, realistically, as long as they are two different tubings, so hopefully. Oh, and there we go. Oh, takes a little bit. It's a cold day today, so. But there, pushed on like that. The emitters are next to each other, and then I'll just continue to roll this out and keep putting it down with these U stakes or U whatever you want to call them. So as you can see, I've got this saran wrap around here. The worst part of this stuff is that you don't get them kinked. So either the bungee strap works well, but you start getting this twisted and you're going to be here all day long trying to unfold it. So you can kind of see I'm just kind of rolling it out with my hands, trying not to fall off the wall. I may try to come back one more time after I get it clicked in, but I'm going to carefully set it down because I left my saran wrap over here. But so basically what I'm trying to do is, it doesn't matter if the drippers are going towards the ground or not, they're still going to drip. Or the emitters, I should say. Kind of just push these into the ground. Luckily, we have very sandy soil up here, so it's very easy. Some of you guys might have to use a hammer to hammer it in, but any of this tubing you can get from your local underground sprinkling supplier, local irrigation store. And I think I will try to do another row right along the front here, but our retaining wall doesn't go very far, go in the ground very far, so I might have to refigure something out, but I'd like to get another row along the front. And then I'll tie it back in, and if Heidi kind of goes around, you can see that I've already started barking over top of some of it. And we won't be using it anymore this fall, but that way it's all ready for spring next year. So again, this is...
All right, so Rod has all the tubing laid in place now. So really the next step he's going to do is he's just going to take the mulch and continue to mulch this area. And the reason why we're putting mulch down is, number one, it gives it kind of a clean finished look, but also it helps help retain the moisture a little bit. So because of the location of where this garden is at, it's not super accessible to get like our trucks in this area. So to do like a trailer of mulch would be really hard. So we just bought a bunch of bags of mulch, and it's supposed to all be natural color, although I'm seeing some variations here in the different colors that are getting laid. There's some that are darker and some that are medium and some that are lighter. So we might have to go through once all the mulch is laid and just kind of like mix it in a little bit better so it's not so many definitive color contrasts. He did say that the mulch he bought, some of it was like on the dollar bin. Hey, why not, right? I mean, you can get a bargain, you get a bargain. But I guess when you get a bargain, sometimes you get a little bit of a bargain. But that's all right. We'll be able to mix it and have it all look fine. So the type of mulch we use, I'm going to show you the bag here. It's called Majestic Mulch, and this is for commercial and residential use. I don't know what type of wood it's made out of. I would say it's probably kind of a hardwood maybe, so that it lasts a little bit longer. This is a 2 cubic foot bag, and I think he probably has about 40 bags of this stuff. So we'll see. The company we get it from, if you're local, it's Michigan Wood Fibers, which is in Zeeland, right down the road from us. That's actually the wholesale division. Mulch Pro would be the retail division. But they do a really good job with either bag mulch or with where you can get it by the yard and stuff. So we've been real happy with the quality. Usually we haven't had any issues with weeds or anything that have been in the woods. So that's really nice. But this helps retain the moisture. It also helps keep weeds down. So realistically, if you put a mulch or something down in your garden, it's going to help kind of keep the weeds at bay. I mean, it's not going to keep them away, but it's definitely going to be better to have mulch in than to not have mulch at all. Also, what we'll do in this garden then, once Rod gets it all mulched and completed, is we'll put a dusting of preen throughout all the plants, and that too is kind of a weed preventer. So we like to do that in the fall, or not, well, I guess it's fall right now, it's October, but then we'll also do it again in the spring. And we just find by doing kind of that double dose, it really helps with the germination of the seed that might happen, late in the season, as well as germination of the seed that happens early in the spring. So whatever you can do to help, prevent the weed issue is definitely a bonus, because it's easier to put down some preventative measures than what it is to have to clean out a weed-infested garden. So mulch is great. Some people will even put down plastic in their garden before they mulch it. We don't do that because we change our gardens way too much, and we don't want to have to deal with plastic under everything and then having to dig through that multiple times, and then you get holes, and then you get weeds where the holes are. So we don't use the landscape fabric or plastic because we just find that this is easier for us. Sometimes too, people will put rocks down because they like that look, which we have that in the front of our house at home. And that is a nice look for at home. And with the rocks, we do have landscape fabric underneath, but we don't change that landscape around ever. Everything is where it's going to be and where it's going to stay. Typically, a lot of times people will use mulch like in the backyards of their homes because it I don't know, it just has, rock is more of a finished look, which a lot of times your front yards are more, once it's planted, it's what it is. And where backyards, people tend to do a little bit more changing around of their gardens and their landscapes. So then the mulch gives a little bit more flexibility there. So, all right, so he was saying he was going to probably put one more row in, and he did do that up along the front there. This retaining wall comes out about 18 inches. So there's cement down there. So where he's poking it in, that's about where the edge of the cement is under the dirt. So that will just kind of nicely line pretty much every plant in this garden with a drip tube pretty close to it. I would say the tubing is about maybe 6 inches, anywhere from 4 to 6 inches off the base of pretty much any plant in this garden. So that's one thing that helps too. If you plant your plants, I mean, you don't want to plant them in lines because that looks kind of dumb. But yet if you can have a little bit of a pathway through, that helps with when you're doing your drip line to create more straight lines opposed to kind of weaving in and out constantly. And you can see in this garden, the tubing is pretty straight lined. There's a little bit of weave going on, but for the most part, it's pretty straight lines. And even though the plants don't totally look like they're straight lined, they're enough straight line that we can easily put this tubing in. So hopefully this is kind of helpful on if you're creating a garden space, you know, some of the things that need to be done. Drip is really helpful. That way you don't have to haul your sprinkler out all the time, and it guarantees your plants are going to constantly get the moisture that they need to look good, as well as using a mulch or a bark of some sort to help keep the moisture in and to keep the weeds at bay. This is Heidi. So Rod had one last thought here of what he wanted to do. So he's got the drip all run through the garden, and he's going to put this little T valve. I don't even know if it's a valve. It's just a little T on this drip tubing, because what he wants to do is, instead of having like a dead end on the drip tubing, this way it's going to just be a continuous loop. So by the solenoid valve where it's going to start, the water will go into the tubing, and then it will quickly branch off, continuing to go straight or going into basically, let's say, the end of the tubing. And all right, here he's showing us what he's going to do there. So there you go. So once it comes out of the underground thing, it'll go in a continuous loop going in 2 different directions. So the water eventually will meet in the middle, but this way it doesn't have to run the full length of all this tubing before it gets to the end, which, you know, at the end it could be weaker. It's going to actually branch out in 2 directions, and then the weakest point will be the middle of all this tubing. So I think that'll give better pressure and better drip coverage to this full area. This is Heidi and Rod from Garden Crossings.